Okay, thank you for attending today's training on ethics, ethics as educators, ethics in sorry, education, and sorry, and ethics having to do with sexual harassment. Okay, let me. Okay, welcome to Ethics and Sexual Harassment. My name is Mr. Garcia, as you guys know. Ethics. Ethics is the discipline dealing with what is good and bad with moral duty and obligation. Ethics in teaching means you're doing the right thing for the students, for the school, for everybody, and for yourself. Okay, the Texas Educators Code of Ethics, Statement of Purpose. The Texas educator shall comply. I'm sorry, I'm having issues with my throat. Shall comply with standard practices and ethical conduct towards students, professional colleagues, school officials, parents, and members of the community, and shall safeguard academic freedom. The Texas educator, in maintaining the dignity of the profession, shall respect and obey the law, demonstrate personal integrity, and exemplify honesty and good moral character. The Texas educator, in exemplifying ethical relations with colleagues, shall extend just and equitable treatment. Rio Grande City CISD Employee Handbook to all members of the profession. That means as educators, we're going to be honest, fair, have good moral character, and exemplify everything that is expected of us. That means follow the law and respect the profession. The Texas educator, in accepting a position of public trust, shall measure success by the progress of each student toward realization of his or her potential as an effective citizen. The Texas educator, in fulfilling responsibilities in the community, shall cooperate with parents and others to improve the public schools of the community. That means we have to be fair and honest and have good moral character towards everybody in the community, students, teachers, other staff members, administration, parents, everybody. These are the professional standards. They're the rules or the expectations the state of Texas and our district has for us. I'm not, sorry, I'm not gonna go over each one, just a little one here and there, okay? And you have right now about 14 standards. Okay, let me read some of them for you. Okay, for example, if you look at 1.2, the educator should not knowingly misappropriate, divert, or use monies, personal property, or equipment committed to his or her charge for personal gain or advantage. That means if there's equipment in your room, you're not going to sell it or rent it out or do anything to it for your own personal gain, especially if it belongs to the district. Some other ones that stand out, 1.5. The educator shall neither accept nor offer gratuities, gifts, or favors that impair professional judgment or to obtain special advantage. This standard shall not restrict the acceptance of gifts or tokens offered and accepted openly from students, parents of students, or other persons or organizations in recognition of appreciation and service. That means basically bribery. I'm not gonna call the parents and say, if your son wants a good grade, give me money. No, if your son wants to be on, if I was a coach, if your son wants to be the head quarterback, give me money. No, you have to be fair to everybody. Okay, some of the other ones, 1.9, the educator shall not make threats of violence against school district employees, school board members, students, or parents of students. That means you can't threaten anybody. As educators, remember, we follow the law, we follow these standards. And 1.10, 10, the other standard, the educator shall be of good moral character and be worthy to instruct or supervise the youth of his state. That means basically we're the example. We need to teach so you guys can see that we're following the rules of good moral character, so we can help you and hopefully our vision and mission statement, which means to create good citizens in the community. Okay, some of the other ones, of course, there's ones that are very against the law. The educator shall refrain from illegal use or distribution of controlled substances or abuse of prescription drugs and toxic inhalants. The educator shall not, under the influence of alcohol, or consume alcoholic beverages on school property or during school activities when students are present. Okay. Ethical conduct towards professional colleagues. That means the way the rules or expectations towards other people in the education field, coworkers. And again, this will go back to sexual harassment and students. And I'll go over that in a little bit. Some of the ones that stand out here, 2.2, the educator shall not harm others, knowingly make false statements about a colleague or the school system. That basically gossip. You do not talk about the district, another colleague in a negative way. Okay, 2.5, 2.4, the educator shall not interfere with a colleague's exercise of political, professional, or citizenship rights and responsibilities. Basically, I'm not going to interfere with another educator's rights, political, professional, or anything like that. 2.5, the educator shall not discriminate against or coerce a colleague on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, age, gender, disability, family status, or sexual orientation. Basically, no discrimination by any means. Okay, and the last one I wanted to cover, 2.7, the educator shall not retaliate against any individual who has filed a complaint with SPEC or provides information for disciplinary investigation or proceedings under this chapter. That means if somebody files a complaint against me, I cannot go and threaten or get even with the person filing the complaint. Because again, it goes against the standards and expectations for each other. And these are expectations towards students. Okay, this is what all the educators should this is what the community expects from the teachers. This is what the students should expect from the teachers. Okay. And again, I'm going to go over some of them, not all of them. Some of the ones that to me stand out. 3.1, the educator shall not reveal confidential information concerning students unless disclosure serves lawful professional purposes or is required by law. That means I'm not going to share personal information with anybody. It goes back to privacy, the laws of privacy. We have to have the students' information private so nobody else finds out. 3.2, the educator should not intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly treat a student or minor in a manner that adversely affects or endangers the learning, physical health, mental health, or safety of the student or minor. Okay, when I was teaching elementary, I went through, it allegedly, 3.2. I had a student that somewhere along when she was in first grade, one of the first or second grade, one of the teachers, and then again, this is according to the parents, had it out for her, would treat her bad, would get after her. And then when the parent complained to the teacher started kind of picking on the parent. But the parent were so shy that they never complained, they never did anything. Again, this is from a parent that told me my daughter has anxiety because of the teacher she had before. And that goes back to that standard. Okay, 3.4, the educator should not exclude a student from participating in a program, deny benefits to a student, or grant an advantage to a student on the basis of race, color, gender, disability, national origin, religion, family status, or sexual orientation. I cannot exclude you from anything, from participating in a program. For example, I teach art. I am not going to prevent you from participating, for example, in the fair based on what you believe, your family, religion, sexual orientation, what country you're from, male, female, if you have a disability, your race, color, religion, anything like that. In 3.5, the educator should not intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly engage in physical mistreatment, neglect, or abuse of a student or minor. That means as educators, we're not going to hit the students or abuse them. 3.6, the educator shall not solicit or engage in sexual conduct or a romantic relationship with a student or minor. And this will go back to the other part that I'm going to cover about sexual harassment and breaking or not following these standards. Okay, and that leads to 3.8. The educator shall maintain appropriate professional educator-student relationships and boundaries based on a reasonably prudent educator standard. That means as educators, we cannot be calling, or the communication with the students has to be educated related. The parents have to know about it, whether it's through any social media or through text. I know I personally, when I call home, I use a Google phone, or when the students communicate with me, they use Remind. That way I have proof of the communication, or emails. I always save the emails when students contact me, and it's always during school hours. If anything happens after school hours, any communication, I save it. It's through either Google Classroom or emails or Remind again, everything's saved. So we can have proof that in case somebody accuses a teacher of inappropriate behavior. And that leads to 3.9. The educator shall refrain from inappropriate communication with a student or minor, including but not limited to electronic communications such as a cell phone, text messaging, email, instant messaging, blogging, or other social network communication. Factors that may be considered in assessing whether the communication is inappropriate include but not limited to the nature, purpose, timing, and amount of the communication. Again, if the educator, as educators, you're talking to your students, and we'll go over the subject in a little bit, after school hours, it has to be educator related, and the parents have to know about it. Okay, the subject matter of the communication, again, it has to be school related. Whether the communication was openly or the educator attempted to conceal the communication. Again, if as an educator I'm have communication with a student and I hide how I'm communicating or how the subject of the communication, then it's going to be a no-no. And again, I broke one of the standards. Next one, whether the communication could be reasonably interpreted as soliciting sexual contact or a romantic relationship. Whether communication was sexually explicit, and whether the communication involved discussions of the physical or sexual attractiveness or sexual history, activities, preferences, or fantasies of either the educator or the student. And that leads to sexual harassment in the workplace and basically as educators, sexual harassment. Okay, and all of this I found on our district website, and it's adopted by the state of Texas too. Okay, this is the district's policy. We do not allow employees to engage in sexual harassment of employers, students, parents, patrons, or vendors to the school. No district no district employee is permitted to have a sexual or romantic relationship with a student, regardless whether a student or parent welcomes or approves of the relationship. Sexual harassment is any unwelcome conduct of any kind that is based on a person's sex or that would not occur but for the sex or gender of the person, and that is so severe, pervasive that it deprives a person of the benefit of his or her job or education. Isolated incidents of inappropriate sexual charged conduct may not amount to sexual harassment, but they are still prohibited under standards of conduct and should be reported to administrator so that he or she can look into the situation. As a district, they provide mandatory training periodically for all employees on how to recognize, prevent, and avoid sexual harassment. If you believe you're the victim of sexual harassment or any other inappropriate conduct by a coworker or even a student, you should contact Title IX coordinator or your principal to discuss the matter and perhaps to file a complaint. Our complete policy on sexual harassment and the process for bringing a complaint can be found on district website, and there's a district website under district policy manual. Okay. Now let's define sexual harassment. Sexual harassment can be an unwelcome advances, requests for sexual favors, or physical touching of a sexual nature. If you're subject to any such behaviors and they unreasonably interfere with your work performance or create an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment, then that may be sexual harassment. If you're subject to an adverse employment action because you rejected any of these behaviors, that may be sexual harassment. Simple teasing, offhand comments, or isolated incidents may not be considered sexual harassment. Sexual harassment can occur whether the harasser is male or female. You do not have to be the opposite sex. The harasser can be your supervisor, agent of the employer, supervisor in another area, co-worker, or a non-employee. You do not have to be the person harassed, but could be anyone affected by the offensive conduct. For example, if you hear a group of other educators harassing another coworker, if you hear it, that can probably be considered sexual harassment. Unlawful sexual harassment may occur without economic injury to or discharge of the victim. The harasser's conduct must be unwelcome. There's two types of sexual harassment. The first one is called quid pro quo harassment, which happens when a supervisor or someone in a position of authority requests for sexual favors or conduct in exchange for tangible results. And again, you've seen it on the news. You see it in the news. Educators will get caught, or professors asking for special favors from students in exchange for grades. Okay, that's what's come out in the news. For instance, your supervisor might proposition you to sleep with them in exchange for a promotion at work. Your college professor may proposition you for sex in exchange for better grades. The second type of sexual harassment is referred to as a hostile work environment. This occurs when employees subjected to unsolicited physical or verbal sexual advances that are so severe, it alters the employee's working environment, making it hostile and abusive. For instance, every time your boss summons you into your office, it always leads to them proposition you for sex, or every time you're alone with them, they make a sexual pass at you. Excuse me, sorry. While assertions of quid pro quo harassment may be easier to prove, the same can be said for hostile work environments. Allegations. The latter is harder to detect and even more difficult to prove. However, this should not deter you from reporting sexual harassment. What this means is it's easier to prove quid pro quo than the other one, the hostile work environment. Repeated compliments about an employer's appearance can be considered sexual harassment. An employer discussing their sex life in front of employment, sexual harassment. Asking an employee about their sex life, making sexual jokes, circulating nude or semi-nude photos in the workplace, spreading sexual rumors about a coworker, leaving unwanted gifts of romantic or sexual nature, unwanted physical contact, such as a hand on an employee's back, commenting on the attractiveness of others in front of an employee. All of these are considered sexual harassment. Okay, now it leads to inappropriate relationships with a student. School employees are always in the public eye, and the expectation is that they will always observe professional boundaries in their professional relationship with students. The district prohibits employees from having inappropriate social relationship with students. And these are some of the expectations and some of the no-nos for communicating with students. Communication with students, whether by phone, email, instant message, Twitter, text message, or any other form of electronic or digital communication at any time, unless the communication is directly related to your assigned duties and responsibilities. For example, the only thing you should talk about is homework, the class, team activity or sport, school club, or other school-sponsored activity. Anything dealing with communication other than that is a no-no. Engaging in personal conversation with students about either their students or your own personal relationships or problems with spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, or significant others. No. Taking a student away from school during the school day without obtaining express permission of the student's parent or principal. Visiting students at their homes when the parent is not present, or inviting the student to your home without prior express permission of the student's parents. Giving gifts of a personal nature, clothing, perfume or cologne, jewelry, etc., to a student at school or at any time without a parent's knowledge and permission, according to the RGCCISD employee handbook. And playing favorites, for example, allowing students to get away with conduct that is not permitted from other students, is considered inappropriate. And when you do get reported, this is what's going to happen. Resignation and terminations of certified educators, including educational aides, will be reported to the superintendent within 7 days to the State Board of Education if there is evidence that the employee engaged in a certain misconduct, any form of sexual or physical abuse of a minor, or any unlawful conduct with a student or minor, unless the superintendent has completed an investigation into misconduct and determined that the educator did not engage in the misconduct. Soliciting or engaging sexual contact or a romantic relationship with a student or a minor. The possession, transfer, sale, or distribution of a controlled substance, illegal transfer, appropriation, or expenditure of a district or school property or funds. That means if the school gives you funds for something, you can't use it for personal use. It has to be for what it was intended. An attempt by a fraudulent or unauthorized means to obtain an altered certificate or permit for the purpose of promotion or additional compensation. Committing a criminal offense or any part of a criminal offense on district property or at school-sponsored events. In addition, the superintendent is required to notify SPEC within 7 business days when a certified employee or an applicant for certification has a reported criminal history. And that means any formal criminal justice system charges and depositions, including arrests, detentions, indictments, criminal information, convictions, deferred educations, and probations in any state or federal jurisdiction that is obtained by a means of other than the fingerprint-based Clearinghouse of Texas fact. Okay, and if you do break all those standards, and if you do get in trouble, some of the consequences are loss of jobs, loss of your teacher certification, jail time. those are some of the consequences. Okay, in closing, any questions? It's okay, Miguel. Thank you. I'll explain a little bit and I'll train you again. Okay, I'll get to you. Thank you for allowing me to present to you guys. Let me stop recording.